Do you believe in the idea of love at first sight? I mean, you meet somebody and you just know instantly, this girl is the one. I mean, it makes the air taste better. The flowers look prettier. I mean, the birds chirping sounds nicer. All of these things just come into perfect harmony. And the reason being, it was instant love. Now imagine if you had that instant love or that instant value with each and every one of your prospects when they knew after they saw you, they heard you speak for the first time that this one is the right candidate. That, my friend, would be pretty awesome. Well, it may not happen every single time, and it may not even ever happen. It may take some time for you to develop that relationship. But in today's episode, we're going to talk about how you can create that instant value with each and every one of your customers. You're going to love this one. This episode is brought to you in part by mailtag.io. Essentially, it's a tool that allows you to see around the corner. Want to know when someone opens your email? Or perhaps, maybe there's a link to your proposal. Want to know when they click on it? Mailtag.io gotcha. Take advantage of a 14-day free trial. Simply go to mailtag.io. This episode is also brought to you in part by TSE Certified Sales Training Program. If you feel that your sales are in a slump, 2018 wasn't the best year. Perhaps you gave some amazing presentations. You did a lot of hard work, but still yet they left you and went with the competition. We can fix that. Check out TSE Certified Sales Training Program. We have a new semester beginning in April, and it would be an absolute honor to have you join. Go to thesalesevangelist.com/C as in certified, S as in sales, T as in training. thesalesevangelist.com/CST. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we have Bob Britton, and as I mentioned in a teaser, Bob's going to talk to us about the strategy of how we can instantly create value with our prospects. What can we do? Is it even possible? Can sales reps do this without knowing everything in the world? And that's true. There are some strategies and some ideas, and Bob's going to break that down and share that with us, what has worked for him. His background, he has 25 years of experience of running businesses and so forth, and he's built a $3 million company from the ground up, straight up to the top. So when he shares his ideas, these are things that have been proven, things that have worked for him, and they can definitely help you. So let's go and dive into the episode. Welcome to the show, Bob.
Hey, welcome, Donald. So glad to be here.
Man, I'm excited to have you, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you about this topic of how to instantly increase the perceived value that we offer, more after the offer that we have to give. But before we dive into all that fun stuff there, Bob, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and what you do, man?
Well, I got my start in business, believe it or not, as an auto mechanic. I was working as a mechanic, had opportunity to buy a business, and sometimes they say when you're young and dumb, you're just like, oh, it'll be easy. I thought to myself, how hard could it be owning a business? I can do better than these people that I've been working for years. And quickly failed for quite a while, but then started to learn some things and got pretty good at it and started really learning the whole sales game of how to sell people. And in the auto repair business, I mean, you have to imagine this for a second. You're selling something that nobody wants to buy. Nobody is ever prepared to buy. And they never have the money for it. It's completely unexpected. And they don't want to pay more than they have to. But I was in a situation where if I didn't sell, I wouldn't eat. And I had a family to feed. And I put a lot of effort into that and grew that business from a one-man show to a multi-million-dollar company, went on to do several other things. And now I work helping people grow their businesses using my own mix of online stuff, sound sales strategy and business growth opportunity.
Well, I'm very curious. How did you make that company get to $1 million in auto repair?
Oh, a lot of work. Honestly, if I had to boil it down, it was really about clarifying a message to my market and delivering tremendous value in what I was offering. And that's really kind of fits in with the topic that we're talking about today. Because if you can't clearly communicate your value and what sets you apart from any and everyone else, and in that business, there's one on every corner, then you're really competing constantly on price because it's the only way that people know how to kind of measure, right? But if your value proposition, the things that you're coming up with really set you apart right from the beginning, people they focus a lot less on price and a lot more on what do they get, what's really valuable to them. And that as business owners, as salespeople, it's up to us to figure out what those value points are and communicate.
Yeah, dude, so true on that, man. Let's dive into that. Let's start talking about it. When it comes to this concept of what do people usually get wrong when it comes towards their offer? Because sometimes, I'm not sure if you fell in that gap when you first started selling. I was more of like features and benefits, right?
Yep.
They're going to try. Of course, they need this stuff. This is amazing. They need my software. They need to get this fixed. But I didn't give value. But what are some of the mistakes you see that salespeople make when they try to create value?
Well, I don't think that they fully understand what value is. And so the mistakes they make are really around misunderstanding what is valuable to your prospect, the person that you're selling to. Because what we think is valuable is 9 times out of 10, like 27th on their list of what's important to them. And I'm sure you've had this experience too when you're selling and something comes off your tongue, something rattles off and your prospect just stops and goes, yeah, that's what I want. And it wasn't even something that you considered necessarily important, but to them, that was everything. And the thing that we get wrong over and over again is we just don't take the time to think our way through all of the different possible things that somebody could consider valuable. And you really have to it's a high brain activity. And frankly, when I walk people through this, that they're exhausted usually afterwards. But it's not like you feel like you've been beaten up at the gym for an hour, but that's not it. You're just thinking about something really intensely, like what could be even the smallest thing, what could be considered valuable to somebody. There's the big things, right? It saves time, it saves money, but everyone says that. And so that becomes really not that valuable because it's just so watered down.
Exactly.
Yep. So getting really granular is super important.
Let's just walk through it. We're going to make this happen. Let's say I'm one of your clients. What would be the first thing you do with me?
Well, before we jump into that, which I will circle right back around to it, let's kind of dispel a quick myth here too. We talked about perceived value at the beginning of the call, but I want to just touch on that again really quickly because perception is everything. And I think a lot of people forget that. Like when we're creating our value proposition, if our prospect thinks it's important, it is. Whether we could be like, that's the dumbest thing ever, but to them, it's the most important thing. So perception is everything, right? It creates people's reality. And then, so if we're going to do that, when we're creating our value, then we have to just remember that all the way through the process. So circle back around to what you asked me.
Yeah.
Step 1, what do we do? Well, the first thing I like to do is look at the business drivers. So there's really only 2 things that people care about. When you get at the very highest level, it's saving money and making money. And if you're talking to business owners, it pretty much ends there. But we can drill down that a lot deeper and we could talk about the drivers we have to determine what would be the reason a customer would use your offer, right? What did the decision makers really care about? They might care about like lead conversion rate. That might be important to them as we start to drill down. Remember, we talked about getting granular?
Yeah.
So lead conversion rate, compliance, if that's an issue in that particular niche, collections, downtime or uptime. Those things they come in, all the time. We got cost of the goods sold, operating costs, labor costs, productivity, the share of the customer base, time to profitability, waste, turnaround time, customer retention, profit margins, market share, time to market. A lot of times people forget that, the time to market or time to bring something to market or how quickly you can bring a solution to somebody is maybe super valuable, And just on that particular note, I had a customer that was told it was going to be like $10,000 to do this particular software implementation. And they were really on the fence. But when I started to drill down and really ask some pointed questions, we found out that we could actually do it for like 1/10 of that price and do it in just a fraction of the time. And it really wasn't the money that they were concerned about. It was the speed of the implementation that mattered to them most. So time to market or time to implement your solution. Lifetime customer value, of course, another huge one that I think is overlooked all the time. Does your product, does your solution increase the value to the customer, the lifetime of the customer?
One of the things you mentioned there is like how, like, well, let's back up. What I've seen sometimes when I've coached or work with sellers is that because they think, say, for instance, that it's costs, we push that and we push that and we push that and we don't listen. When in actuality, like you're saying here, this buyer was clearly wasn't the cost that they were worried about. They were more worried about the, can you get it done? Or was it the lead time you said?
Yeah, the time to implementation in that case. Yeah, specifically. Yeah. How quickly can this solution be rolled out? And is it going to interrupt what I'm doing right now while you're trying to transition to this new thing? That's something that weighs heavy on people, right? Or could anyway. In that particular instance, it did.
How do you find this out though? Like say if I'm reaching out to a client that's cold or a prospect that's I'm doing a cold outreach and got my first appointment with them. How do I go about getting this information, that first pitch, so to speak? What do I need to say?
It's, that's a great question because really it boils down to asking really good questions yourself. And I think that's another time where us as salespeople, we tend to wing it a lot. I've met a lot of great salespeople who don't really think about the questions that they ask. They're very general. They're not super specific because they haven't really taken a lot of time to think about what the question that they're going to put out there in the first place. I mean, there's a limited amount of bandwidth somebody's going to give us, right? Of their attention, of their time, of all those things. And so we, again, have to come into that game really prepared. So we ask, very interesting questions that move people in a very specific direction. Like what's your number one concern about this? Or tell me just one thing that if you did something like this, tell me the one thing that could be a potential issue for you. When in the mistake a lot of people make say, well, tell me what your concerns are.
Yeah.
Which leaves this great big open-ended thing. And you get all kinds of drivel back. But if you ask for just one thing, tell me just one thing, or your main concern, what is the most important thing in this particular? By just limiting that answer, you get a lot better information back from that customer that's very specific to what their concerns are. They're not going to bring up something that's 87th on their list. And when you ask for one thing, they're coming up with the one thing, right? It's the top of their mind. And you can flip that around. Now, this is something that I've used that I see a lot of salespeople shy away from and are scared to death of, but I find it to be the best thing. And I'll say to them, I'll look them right in the eye if it's a face-to-face meet. Say, tell me the one thing that you absolutely hate about my industry.
Ooh.
Or hate about doing business with me. Now, you got to have some stones to, to put yourself out there in that regard. But boy, what you get back is the most valuable stuff you'll ever get because they'll tell you. Now, not everyone will. Some people shy away from that in terms of customer, but some people will tell you. And what they tell you, you can hang your hat on. There's something that you can take to the bank because you say, wow, all right, I'm coming across this way. Or if they're out in left field, just the feedback is just so, so valuable. And just to segue that story you asked me at the beginning, how did I build $1 million auto repair company or multi-million-dollar company? I asked people at the beginning and consistently through, what's the number one thing you hate about auto repair? And you can imagine I got some colorful answers, man. I got a lot of stuff back. But what I got...
Was one of them the one that, I go in to get one thing fixed and then I have 10 things wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, nobody likes that, right? Because it goes back to what I was saying, that you're selling something that nobody wants, that they're not prepared for. So same kind of thing. And but what I also got was like, I got a lot of women that said, I don't like feeling like I'm being talked down to. I don't want to, I don't like the smell of the place. I don't like when I walk in, there's some greasy dude, staring at me with one tooth, whatever. I took all of the feedback that they gave me. And over time, I used that as my primary business differentiation point. So, they said, well, we don't like the smell of the place. I said, that's great because we have a policy here where it'll always smell like fresh roses and coffee. I made sure of that. My office, the waiting room always smelled like fresh coffee. It was beautiful. And then, and it was always kept super clean because that was another thing that people that felt uncomfortable coming in.
Yeah.
No, there's not going to be any auto parts here. There's not going to be any crap on the walls. I had these beautiful paintings. I kept it spotless for a reason. And so everything that they said, you then turn around and use that as an advantage for your business. Of course, in that situation, I had the control to really make it that way.
Yeah.
But we can all do that in some degree or another, no matter what we're doing.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break, but when we get back, Bob's going to continue the conversation to share with you what you can do to instantly create that value. You're listening to the Sales Evangelist podcast, and I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. You meet this amazing prospect on LinkedIn. They're the right size firm, the right income, the right number of employees. They're right within your Goldilocks zone. They have a problem, and you can solve that problem with your software. You schedule an initial appointment. You send out an email to them and to a couple of their team members. You also send out some information about your firm, but you don't know if they're opening your emails or not. You don't know if they're clicking through and going to the web pages that you recommended. It's a Chrome browser extension that allows you to get notification when someone opens your email or clicks on a link. The coolest part is that you can schedule your emails for later. Mailtag.io has a free 14-day trial, so you don't have to take my word for it. You can go and test it out. And when you do fall in love with it, go ahead and use promo code Donald at checkout and get half off your subscription for life. Shh, don't go telling nobody about that now. Half off your subscription for life just because you're listening to the TSE podcast. To find out more information, again, go to mailtag.io. But let's continue the story. The prospect then goes ahead and clicks on all of your links. They go back to your website. They're doing their initial research. They want to schedule the next meeting. You go through the process. You create a demonstration. I mean, an amazing demonstration. You gave it everything you had, your emotion, your heart, your feelings. You gave epic value. But still yet, when it's all said and done, they said,
Thank you so much, Donald. Unfortunately, we are going with another vendor. We appreciate all that you did. Thank you.
Devastated. I know that feeling. I've been there. You've been there. And it's horrible. But we can fix that. We fix that by helping you with TSE Certified Sales Training Program. We would love for you to check out our upcoming semester to learn how we can help you not only find the right customers, not only say the right things and help your clients get all the way to the demonstration, but actually what you should be doing to help them convert to come towards your product or your service. To find out more information, go to thesalesevangelist.com/CST. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/C for certified, S for sales, T for training. We have a new semester coming up in April, and I would love to have you join us. Let's help you to close more deals. Hey, we're back. And as we dive into the second half of this episode, Bob's going to continue to share his insights that can help you to instantly create that value with your prospects. Who was the ideal customer for you guys at that point? Who was the one buying more? Was it the moms, stay-at-home moms, or the husband?
It was the decision makers were typically the women. Although it was funny how that dynamic played out. I should say the decision maker was primarily men, but the purse strings were primarily women. So the person controlling, the money.
Were they the ones sitting at sitting in the conference room then?
Not so much. So it would be the guy that was there in that situation. It was the guy who was there and communicating with me. But the fact that they chose to come to my shop was the woman.
Yeah.
She's like, I want you to go there because they're really nice and they do all this other stuff and the place smells good. And so take the car there. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. And it's just little details. And I think one of the things that we have as sales reps, I think we have this infinity of always we have to get the positive feedback. We have to get people saying nice stuff to us, even though we tell ourselves, yeah, we don't, I'm fine with getting no. Something just happens where we just feel that we have to get yes. And by asking those tough questions, those are the things that work. It's kind of like critical conversations, right? Yeah. I mean, because those are the things that really would matter. And you need to have that in a relationship. If you're not willing to ask your spouse, some of those tough things, then you're not going to get the clarity on where you guys are and what could be issues, because you're going to tell yourself everything is good and hunky-dory when in actuality, it's not the case.
Yep.
Am I making sense on that there?
Absolutely. Yeah. What I'm hearing you say is that there's those things under the surface that,
oh yeah,
I know, got to bring them up. And that's where that question really came out for me. Like, what do you hate about doing business with our industry, if you want to soften a little bit rather than me? But I'll tell you a quick story on a segue on that. I had a client that I was working with, and he was in a photography business. He did like virtual tours of houses for realtors. When they were listing a house, they could do like a virtual tour online. And he's the guy that did that, put it online, all that. And, I started working with him. And the very first question I said is, well, when's the last time you had a difficult conversation with your customer base? And he was kind of struggling, not paying his bills, in a rough spot. And he's like, no, I've never done that. I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to put out an email to all of your customers saying, can you give me one thing that you hate about doing business with me? Ooh. And boy, now a lot of people wrote back and say, there's nothing we hate, but this is no good and that we don't like, and it's difficult to do this. And they literally gave him the to-do list for his business over the next few months. And he went to work and he fixed all of it. He had an ordering process that was people hated and he didn't like that. So he just walked down the list and sales increased 40% almost overnight.
So he didn't push more. He didn't go and dump more, turn on a faucet more and try to spend more money on marketing to find more people.
Nope.
He kept what he was doing constant, but just tweaked the changes that he was given by his clients.
His clients said, if you did this or you made it easier to do that, I would order more. And you know what? They did. It's amazing. And he had, again, he had to have some guts to do that. He was like, boy, I'm really nervous to push send on this email. I'm like, it's fine, man. I've done this before. They're not going to crucify you. It'll be okay. And the end result was, he has a 7-figure business that's just crushing it. But that was the start of asking that tough question and, being open to the response.
Wow, dude, that is amazing, man. I think that's something that we need to recognize as salespeople. And sometimes it's not necessarily dump more money at it. It's really just, what can we do to fix? What can we do to tweak what we already have going? And especially for seasoned sellers, that's probably where we fall sometimes. You may tap out on, no matter if you get 10 times more customers, your percentage of those that are going to close is still going to be the same, but you're not giving them what they want. And that could increase it significantly. That's huge, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Any other thoughts or advice you would give us that can help us to increase our perceived value or the perceived value of our offers, or anything else that we may be overlooking as sales reps or sales leaders?
Well, I think there's 3 key steps. We started talking about the business drivers, right? Sure. You got to clearly identify what it is that your product, your service, your whatever does for your prospect. But then the second part of that is movement, right? They won't change unless your offering is significantly better from what the status quo is. And one of the things I really hate is there's this idea of an improvement offer. But people really don't buy improvement offers. They buy new things. Like a perfect example, one of the best stories I ever heard about that was in the diet and exercise, right? Like, look, if I came out with a program that says, Donald, all you got to do is you got to eat less and move more, and you should pay me $1,297 for this program, you're going to be like, yeah, I know that already, right? It's an improvement offer. So, all right, well, I'll show you how to move a little bit more than you already are, or how to do different exercises. It's not that compelling of an offer. But when you see new things in the market, like, years ago, it was the Atkins diet. And then it was the South Beach diet. And then what's the new thing now? It's ketosis. Yep. It's the keto diet now. And there was the paleo movement. They're all, if you look and drill down into those, they're all kind of the same.
Yes.
But there's this new spin to it that's a little bit different that makes all the difference in the world. And I think that's what we have to do as salespeople. We have to remember, well, how do we package up our stuff to be not just an improvement offer, but a new idea and a new way to talk about something. So when I say about movement and being this step 2 is the movement, won't change until your offer is significantly better than the status quo, then you've got to really think about, what's the movement that you do? So things like increase or cut or improve, accelerate, reduce, enhance, balance, free up, eliminate, minimize, revitalize, shrink, maximize. Those are all just kind of adjectives that I'm throwing out there, but they're things that you can think about are, what does this do and how can it do it so that it's a new thing, not just an improvement offer.
Yeah. Interesting. I like that idea of movement. What else do we have? What's the third piece there?
Well, the third piece of the puzzle is the metrics. Adding metrics to your value proposition makes it even stronger, more believable. You've got, and you don't ever want to use round numbers. I think this is a giant mistake that people make. And it's a psychological thing that you have to get into. Like if I said to you, Donald, I'm going to, improve the fuel mileage on your car by 5%. Mm-hmm. You're going to think to yourself, well, that's probably some made up, number or whatever. It's kind of rounded off. But if I said it's going to be 8.6% better.
Dang, this guy tested it out.
Right. He must have tested it. Now, back when I had that company, my labor rate, everyone's labor rate out there in the neighborhood around that time was, it was $87 an hour or whatever that was. It was whatever. Mine was $98.68. Well, people used to ask me, where the hell did you come up with that? And I say, I sat down with my accountant and I figured out down to the penny the very minimum I could charge to deliver the very best service to you. And that's the number it came up with. And I'm not charging a penny more. And that shift, people would be like, that's awesome. Well, I can't believe you did that. I'm like, well, that's what it's got to be, And
Yeah.
So again, that's coming to those kind of psychological things that you just kind of shift people's thinking. And you just by putting a different number, it helps to position you as being new and different.
Love it, man. And I think sometimes, again, reason why we don't know those numbers as sales reps, we don't do the homework. We don't track the information. We don't come prepared. We just want to wing it. And oftentimes winging it doesn't give you the result that you desire.
Well,
and
you know what? I would actually say that winging it, unfortunately, does get you some results sometimes. And then you start to buy into the idea that, this is how I can do it, right? I have a very good friend who's one of the best salesmen I've ever met. And he's amazing. And he prepares, anytime he brings out a new product line, any kind of new product, he learns everything about the competition. He spends literally a month reading everything he can find, calling people that have owned the product. He will do all the investigation on the competition before he even decides to do anything with the product himself. And so he knows everything about it before he'll ever try to sell it. And go ahead.
No, I think that there gives you that, I don't know, it makes me as the seller or the buyer becomes more trustworthy of you, or that I want to have more confidence in you.
Absolutely. Well, and when something comes up and people test you, right? So that's another thing that we sometimes forget, that we don't always know our buyer might have some bit of information that they're going to throw out and see how we respond to. And if we're not well prepared for that, they're like, yeah, this guy's full of it. So, they'll throw those little tests out there, and people sometimes don't even know that they're failing because it just goes right over their head. They don't pick up on the fact that, that they know that about that product over there. And it may be that product over there has an advantage over ours. And it's stupid on our part to not acknowledge that. But if we don't know, we can't even acknowledge it, right? So it's that preparation part of it. So getting back to the metrics part, which is the third part. So we've got step one was really the business drivers. Mm-hmm. We've got movement, and then we've got metrics. And those three things are really what create a tremendous amount of value for your offer.
Love it, man. If there's one major piece of takeaway one major piece of advice you want folks to leave with as a takeaway, what's that major piece of advice?
Do your homework.
Do the homework.
Do the homework and think about positioning yourself as different, new, unique, special. Years ago, I worked with another guy. He was in the printing business, and he came up with this thing about using real ink. And I was just like, well, are other people not using real ink? He goes, no. He goes, but I just say that I do. And that one little thing, you would be amazed. Be like, oh man, let's go with him because he uses real ink. I mean, it's such a small little thing, but it made a huge difference. And so, get a little creative, man. Come up with some of the stuff. Think about where you're coming from and how can you position yourself as different within the marketplace. And these days, I mean, as I'm sure you know, competition has never been greater, and there are more and more people that are wanting to work for themselves and becoming salespeople. So that whole market is shifting as well. So, you got to, all these little things add up to what makes the big difference.
So darn true on that, man. Well, if listeners out there love what you're talking about, they're interested in connecting with you, where's the best place for them to go to connect with you?
Yeah, they can just go to my website, marketingautomationgroup.com. And I've got a bunch of free information there. I even got a little 7-day course that people can opt in for. And I'm constantly producing stuff and putting things out there to help people with this and a lot of other topics around it. I love doing this stuff, and I love helping people get a lot of great results and just kind of put some unique spins on, what they're doing out there.
Bob, man, we truly appreciate you being willing to come on a show today. You gave us some great pieces of advice, and I know we can definitely take this and apply it. So thank you so much for the time, and truly appreciate it.
You're most welcome. And to everyone out there, I hope they take it and use it, right? Ultimately, that's what makes the difference, is using what you've heard and applying it.
Well said, man.
Thanks.
Dude, that was awesome. Hey, listen, I told you Bob was going to bring it. He brought some great insights today. Things that you can take to the bank. Well, not literally to the bank, but you can take this idea and apply it and see the results. Because that's what it's all about for every one of us. We want to be able to create that value, that instant value with our prospects. And sometimes it's not as easy as it may sound. It may take some work. And oftentimes I've made the mistake in the past, but just thinking that if I show up, that's value, and it's not. So apply what you heard today from Bob. Tell us the results that you see, and I know you're going to see some good results. Go back to the show note, connect with Bob, and as you connect with him, check out his company, Marketing Automation Group, as well as check out some of the cool content they produce. Find all the details back in the show notes. And while you're there, make sure to check out mailtag.io and take advantage of the exclusive offer, 14-day trial, and when you fall in love with it, use the promo code Donald at checkout. Can't beat that. I share stuff like this because I want to help you. I want you to find more ideal customers. I want you to build stronger value. I want you to close more deals. But most importantly, I want to challenge you each and every single day to go out and do big things. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the show today as much as I did. And if so, go ahead and leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to fine podcasts. Subscribe if you haven't done so, and show your friends how they can subscribe as well. This would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. Our show today was produced by myself and the Sales Podcast Network. It was edited and mixed together by the one and only Mr. Jershon O'Bale. Our content writer and show note creator is Mrs. Shannon Rasmussen. You can find audio credits to this and all of our episodes in the show notes. And as always, I am your host, your coach, your mentor, your guide down the sales journey, Mr. Donald C. Kelly, the sales evangelist. Sales Podcast Network.